Welcome back to the channel, and today we're talking Transformers, and we're talking Bumblebee the movie, the deleted scenes. Now we've talked about the special features and the deleted scenes before for Bumblebee the movie and the digital release, and I will link that video via the description box below. But before we get into it today, I want to make sure you are subscribed to the channel with the notification bell turned on so you stay up to date with all my Transformers content. Now the reason why I want to talk about the deleted scenes when it comes to Bumblebee the movie is because there is 9 deleted scenes, and I thought it would be a good idea to list them in order of relevance in whether or not they should have made the final cut of the movie. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with 9, which is the least relevant, and 1, which would be the most relevant. And my honest opinion about the deleted scenes is that they were a little bit underwhelming, and the reason why I say this is because I think we all imagined that we would get more robot action when it came to these deleted scenes. However, the majority of these scenes are focused around Charlie Watson and her relationship between her friends and her family, and also Bumblebee. So there is a lack of Decepticon and Autobot action, which is a shame. And of course, one important deleted scene which is missing is the Megatron deleted scene, which I think we all thought we would get. Travis Knight hinted that there was plans to feature Megatron in this movie before things were changed, and I think we did expect to get something as a bonus. Now, we did get something, but it wasn't a deleted scene, and it would have been amazing to have seen a G1 version of Megatron in its CG form. However, if you do want to go and see what that is, I have talked about that in the video that I mentioned moments ago, and you can check that out once again via the link in the description box below. So albeit that I am slightly disappointed with the deleted scenes when it comes to Bumblebee the movie, are you? If you are, let me know in the comment section below. Would you have expected more, considering the fact that this was meant to be a prequel originally and it was then shifted towards a reboot? And I have that sneaking suspicion that there are more Autobot and Decepticon deleted scenes, but they just didn't make the final cut for the DVD, Blu-ray and digital release. And the reason why they didn't make the cut is not because they wouldn't have been exciting, but maybe they would have then put a slight dent on the reflection of Bumblebee, because people would have been like, why didn't that make the movie? Why didn't this make the movie? And it's just a much better way, considering how Bumblebee was received at the box office, the critics giving it great praise and it doing financially well. It's best not to damage that, so they've kind of left it up to us to go out and buy and find out for ourselves what actually came with the deleted scenes. And like I said, there isn't too much to it, but we have got 9 deleted scenes, and we're going to go through them and talk about them in terms of relevance and importance, and if they should or should not have made the final cut of the movie. So at number 9, I've gone with Drive to Karate Class, which is where Charlie Watson is taking her brother to the karate class on her bike and then heading off towards working at the fairground, and we get to meet 2 of her friends, Brenda and Liz. Well, I call them friends, but not so much after this deleted scene. Now, I don't particularly remember these 2 at any point in the movie when I saw it at the cinema, and I don't really think they add any great sort of deal to be placed in the movie with any major significance, because I think the idea between these 2 is to give you the indication that Charlie Watson has changed after her father has passed away, and she's become more of a recluse, more of a loner. But the movie did that job without this deleted scene, and I actually found this deleted scene to be quite harsh, but trying to introduce some humour into it as well. And we all know what that will remind you of. That will remind you of the Bay humour, where it's unnecessary to have that sort of humour at that certain point in the movie. And I feel like Travis Knight delivered, you know, comedy at the right times. He delivered the seriousness at the right times, and he really did give you that connection to the lead cast with Hailee Steinfeld playing Charlie Watson. And this scene, for me, if it was in there, then you would have had focus on two characters in which don't hold much significance, so they've just been put in there for no apparent reason. And these two do appear again later on in the deleted scenes. Again, I don't remember them being in the final cut of the movie. So it seems like that they were in there to just be antagonists towards Charlie Watson, making her feel awkward because she's had to go through some emotional experiences and change. They don't quite agree with them, so they are pushing her aside, and they're trying to distance themselves from Charlie, which makes you think, well, Charlie is a loner, making you feel sorry for Charlie Watson. And none of that was necessary because Travis Knight got this across in the movie without having to have two kind of characters which play no major relevance at all. They did that job with having the, I don't remember her name now, but the glamour girl, if you will. You'll see the shot of her here in the movie. She was perfect to really, you know, make Charlie Watson feel awkward. So just having another two who used to be her friends and now ditching her, I just didn't see the value in it. So that's why this one is at number 9. Okay, so at number 8 we've got Drive to Cliff, and this is where Charlie Watson makes her way with Bumblebee towards the cliff top where all the popular kids are hanging out. And the most popular, the one that's everyone's love interest, is going to dive off the cliff, and he tries to coach Charlie Watson to do the same. And that is actually featured in the final cut of the movie. But what isn't, and is in this deleted scene, is once again Brenda and Liz. Yep, I mentioned them at number 9, and I did go back and watch that part of the movie to make sure they were removed, and they were cut from the movie completely. So I do feel sorry for the actresses, but they didn't get their big moment in Bumblebee. But I think it was right because the humour was very Bayish. Once again in this clip as well, they're almost indicating that they're popular kids now and they don't want to be associated with Charlie anymore. And they were invited to the cliff top by Tina Lark, and that name evaded me in number 9, but Tina Lark is the blonde popular girl, and she's the one that really does get under the skin of Charlie Watson, the one that picks on Charlie Watson for the way that she is. So with Tina Lark being that character that really does, you know, belittle Charlie Watson, these two are not necessary at all. And the humour that was featured in this deleted scene is the fact that the only reason why these two have been invited to the cliff top is because they give everyone free corn dogs and free hot dogs. So it's almost like, you know, that peer pressure that you have as a teenager. These two feeling like they're popular, but they're just being used. And although that's relatable, for the movie, it doesn't add any real value. These two characters, you know, we probably wouldn't have seen them again in the entire movie. So yes, it was a moment where you could be like, oh yeah, I see what's happened there. But in reality for this movie, and that's why I think this movie worked so well with the final cut, is because the sheer focus is about Charlie Watson. No other side characters that were unnecessary. So Travis Knight did some trimming down of the cast, and I feel he did that for all the right reasons. So that's why this one I placed at 8, because it followed on quite nicely from number 9. At number 7 we have Car Wash Beetle Breakdown, which features Charlie Watson and her brother, and this was where Charlie brought the beetle home. And if you recall, in the final cut of the movie, she brings the beetle home at night, she works on it, and then she sees Bee transform. So it is very condensed and reduced down in the final cut of the movie. However, we did get a whole scene which was focused on Charlie bringing home the beetle and working on it with her brother, cleaning the Beetle, and then her taking it for a little test drive where she drives her brother, explaining to him that a car means freedom. And so it does mean that, I think, for most teenagers. So again, it's very relatable if you're seeing this and you think about, you know, when you were younger, when you got your first car yourself. But it shows a relationship between her and her brother a bit more. But again, I think that Travis Knight did a very good job in the final cut of the movie of demonstrating that she loves her brother and her brother loves her, and he will look out for her. But much like most brothers and sisters, or brothers and brothers, or sisters and sisters, they don't always see eye to eye, and so, you know, they have that love-hate relationship. And I think that was demonstrated throughout the entire movie. And this clip, again, although it's quite fun and quirky because you see the car wash routine, I like the fact that she took the Bumblebee nest off of the actual wheel hub of the Beetle. I thought that was quite cool seeing her do that. But it doesn't really add any sort of extra value. It doesn't make you think, why wasn't this in there? And of course as well, we actually see the Beetle in the deleted scene break down. So although she's gone to all this effort to tidy up this Beetle, make it look squeaky clean, and implying to her brother that a car means freedom, Bumblebee goes and lets her down, breaks down in the middle of the road, and once again humiliates her because Tina Lark is not far by, and Tina Lark is there to sort of see Charlie Watson's downfall once again, and her brother doesn't want to be embarrassed anymore and wants to get away from his sister. So it has got a few little layers to it that I like. So it wouldn't have been a big deal if this ended up in the movie, but I think that the fact that Travis Knight kept it, you know, short and sweet with the way that he did the introduction of Bumblebee. This, again, I would have imagined if this was a Bay movie, well, this would not have been removed. This would have been in there. But because Travis Knight stuck to the story, stuck to, you know, driving this movie forward, scenes like this just had to be removed. So, let's move on. Number 6 is appliance warfare. Now, this is probably the most, I'd say, controversial deleted scene, because if you wanted more Transformers action, then this is probably the most significant scene, I'd say, because we actually see quite a lot of new Transformers. Whether or not you think they're necessary, that's entirely up to you. My opinion is they weren't, and it was good to keep them out of it. Again, I'll go back and say that it felt very Bay-ish to have this in there. A lot of these cuts feel like, you know, if Michael Bay had had his way, these would have all been in the movie, making it, you know, a much longer film and kind of unnecessary, and you probably would have come away from the movie feeling like it was another incarnation of a Michael Bay film, because in this scene, we see so many different Transformers, from the fact that B puts his, I'll just say his finger in the socket, it generates an energon charge, and then appliances begin to come to life. So for example, the dishwasher, the TV, and there are some quirky aspects on there. I think that in the TV you see Hailee Steinfeld's eye, so maybe that's from one of her music videos, I don't quite know, but there's just some quirky moments, and it is all to do with how the house gets destroyed, but it's much more over the top than what you got for the final cut of the movie. I think the simplicity of what they did with B in the house and him simply destroying everything by accident on his own was a much better idea than having these other mini Transformers causing some carnage. And then Hailee Steinfeld enters the home, and then they proceed to kind of, you know, take out these energon charged appliances. And I don't really feel like that's the right time for that to happen. I think that, you know, Charlie Watson probably would be a bit nervous at approaching these appliance driven Decepticons. They're not that, they're something else, but whatever they are, being energon charged, I just don't think that really a little miniature battle sequence was really necessary, and so I was very happy to see this removed. Some people might think, well, it's fun, leave it in. Yeah, but we've seen in the past so many pointless and irrelevant scenes be left in a Transformers movie. It's very refreshing to see a director simply say, nope, this isn't worth it, let's take it out. And albeit that I'm all for seeing more Autobot and Decepticon deleted scenes where maybe we saw on Cybertron some combat, this is not that. This is a bit far-fetched, a bit out there, and the only real significance that kind of comes from this is it shows more factual evidence that an energon charge has been released, and for the Decepticons to pick that up on their radar. But bar that, this is totally unnecessary, and if you think about the final cut of the movie, it was very well done how the Decepticons picked up the location of Bumblebee in the first place. It didn't need all these other layers added to it, so that's why this one is at number 6. Let's move on. Number 5 is Sector 7, and not an awful lot to say about this one. Just quite frankly, if this was left in the movie, it would have made Sector 7 look like a bunch of dumbasses, because it shows 2 Sector 7 agents debating, you know, what god the Transformers report to. And one thing I would say about this is I'm glad this wasn't put in, because one of my criticisms about the movie was how Sector 7 were so laxed in their approach towards Shatter and Dropkick. They kind of just opened the doors and let them in. There wasn't much resistance at all, and I just think that if you're encountering an alien race, albeit that that was part of that 80s humour, I get that, I understand that, I think you would be much more cautious, and this clip doesn't add anything extra to make me think otherwise. In fact, it makes me think worse of Sector 7, and Agent Simmons did a bad enough job in doing that in the previous Transformers films. So let's swiftly move on. At number 4, we have Birthday Present, where Charlie receives the book from her stepdad. He actually gives her a book telling her to smile, encouraging her a bit more. And there's actually not too much of a difference here to the actual cut of the movie. The only significant differences are that it indicates that Charlie had cut all of her hair short previously, because her stepdad says to her, your hair's getting back to its normal way, and then she goes straight after he says that and goes and cuts a big chunk out of it, just showing that rebellious teenage side. And also she's asked to look after her brother on her birthday, in which she goes and gets the Beetle. So in the actual final cut of the movie, we see Charlie Watson simply just arrive at the garage where she wants the Beetle. She doesn't interact with her brother at all, and the mention of her looking after her brother is cut from the movie. So there's not a massive difference, and in fact it wouldn't have made a huge difference if this had been left in. So that's why I put it in the middle of these deleted scenes in terms of importance, because technically it wasn't really adjusted. At number 3, we have Charlie drops off Mona and Conan. And it's a bit deceiving, the title of this deleted scene, because Conan, I believe, is the dog, and yes, Charlie does drop them off. However, this scene is more based around Bumblebee and Charlie Watson on the beach, where she's teaching Bee to be a robot in disguise. And this deleted scene has more between the two, showing how it's more playful, I would say. So that scene in the final cut of the movie is fun. It shows Bee burying his head in the sand, being very naive. He should transform and be his Beetle if he's going to be a robot in disguise, but he doesn't. He's got to learn that. And whereas the deleted scene shows him kind of picking up Charlie Watson, shaking her about a bit, and I think that, you know, Travis Knight went for the more gentle approach. So although the deleted scene is quite playful and quite hands-on, the final cut was perfect in terms of it having that gentle approach and that quite subtle approach. So I think they got it right with what they had, but if they had left in this deleted scene, it would have done no damage to the movie at all. And number 2, finally, we have some Decepticon action in the deleted scenes, and I've got to be honest, I might have left this one in the final cut of the movie. It's Decepticons inspect the armory, and this is where Shatter and Dropkick are waiting for Sector 7 to make their decision if they're going to work with them or not. And I actually think it's quite a good scene because it shows how the Transformers can take forms and adapt to being on Earth, because it shows Dropkick eyeing up the weaponry that the humans have and taking those items to develop his own as part of him in his robot mode. And he picks up like a flamethrower, and then he takes that form and then he uses the flamethrower, and he has a little bit of dialogue between Shatter and him where she calls him quite childish because he says he's bored. Maybe some of that dialogue I wouldn't have kept in because, again, it was a bit too quirky. I like the fact that Shatter and Dropkick in the final cut of the movie come across very menacing, and I wouldn't have put any more sort of jokes against them. So maybe the dialogue needed to be changed, but the sheer fact that you're seeing how they can take the form of different things that are on Earth, I thought that was quite a cool concept for the triple changes. So I would have left it in, but I would have switched up the dialogue just a little bit. But it was good to see, and these were the sort of things that I would have liked to have seen more in the deleted scenes, because not just do you get to see Shatter and Dropkick in the deleted scene as a Decepticons, but also as well you're seeing undeveloped CG, which quite clearly didn't get taken further any forward because the footage was cut. So I think it's great to see those behind the scenes and getting to see, you know, the progression from the, you know, bare bones CG to what you get in the final cut of the movie. And at number 1, we have the original opening deleted scene. Now the reason why I picked this one is because if this had been in the final cut of Bumblebee, we could have got a very different Transformers film, because B actually narrates this deleted scene, and whether or not we would have had the Cybertron scene to kick off the movie is thrown into question, because B is already on Earth, we don't see him crash land, and we actually get the opening Paramount logo at the beginning, so it feels like this would have been the film's start. So no Cybertron scene, and B is talking about him questioning his mission, and his mission is to protect Earth. However, the humans are already hunting him, and he believes that this race should not be saved. So he's questioning, you know, what he's doing here, why he should protect the humans. And it is a very different tone to what we had in the final cut of the movie, where B sent down on a mission, he interrupts a training sequence with Sector 7, and then they are on the hunt for him, and he's running, he tries to escape, and he ends up running into Blitzwing. Now this sequence is just more the case that Sector 7 are hunting Bumblebee, so maybe that's because they are already aware of the Transformers. We talked about a potential Megatron deleted scene which didn't make the deleted scenes, but if that was planned and scripted for the original Bumblebee movie, because this was supposed to be a prequel as opposed to a reboot, that would have made sense, because Sector 7 would have been aware of the Transformers, where in the final cut of the movie it seems like Sector 7 is actually oblivious. So that's why this is at number 1, because I feel this would have changed the entire complexion of Bumblebee if it had been in, and it may have even thrown that Cybertron scene, that absolutely awesome Cybertron scene, into doubt. So there you go. In terms of importance, the deleted scenes for Bumblebee the movie rated 9 to 1, and I want to get your views and opinions in the comments section below. Let me know if you think Travis Knight should have included any of these scenes. Should he have actually switched them around? Should he have gone with the original opening as opposed to what we got for Bumblebee? I really do want to get your views and opinions, and any particular favourite deleted scenes. I know this video has gone on a little bit longer than I expected, but I wanted to give each scene the time it deserves to talk about it in detail, and I think we've done just that. So make sure you get involved in the comment section below. These have been the deleted scenes, we have discussed them, and now I want to get your views and opinions on it, and all that's left to be said is please rate, comment and subscribe. Do you agree with my list or do you not? This is Delzinski, signing out.